Hello everyone, and welcome to my guide for the rogue subclass, the Arcane Trickster. The rogue has two subclasses currently in early access, the Thief and the Arcane Trickster. We will be focusing on the Arcane Trickster for this video. Now, as a quick disclaimer, this is a subclass guide, not a build guide. We will not be covering optimal item loadouts, encounter walkthroughs, or things of that nature. In short, no min-maxing here. What I will be covering is an overview of the subclass, race options that pair well with the subclass, stat spread recommendations, along with some other general tips to start you off on a good foot, just to give you a nice, well-balanced character for your first run-through of early access and possibly the full game upon release. Rogues are a dexterity class. Most of their weapons are finesse, meaning your weapon accuracy for those weapons scale off of your dexterity bonus. They also only get up to light armor, so it's a good bet to go the dexterity route. Arcane Tricksters get access to magic, like a wizard. Their spellcasting ability scales off of intelligence. Any race that grants bonuses to dexterity or intelligence would be excellent starting points to create your rogue. Okay. So let's go ahead and select our class. We already know what we want, which is the rogue. So looking here on the rogue page, we see that they get dexterity saving throw bonus, intelligence saving throw bonuses, so it's good to spend your points in those. Light armor proficiency only, along with a handful of proficiencies for weapons. You get short sword, which is a finesse weapon, rapier, which is also a finesse weapon, long sword, which is strength based, as well as hand crossbows. And then of course all of your simple weapons you can use as well if you'd prefer those, such as daggers. There are some nice daggers here. So we're gonna skip this. We'll come back to this at the end of the video. We're going to start off with race options that pair well with the rogue and specifically Arcane Trickster subclass. We're going to go ahead and get the obvious one out of the way, which is the half-elf. Any half-elf variant will do. It doesn't matter. They both, all three of them have a little bit of something extra, little race trait. The high elf gets a cantrip, which can be nice, but the big thing about them is that they get two stats that they get to give a bonus to. You can add 2 to dex. You can add 1 to dex and 1 to intelligence if you'd prefer, which is what we should go through since we need to focus on those two, right? Half-elves also get a +2 to charisma, so with half-elves you're getting +4 total to your stats, which is nice. Charisma can actually be very nice as well, but we'll talk about that later when we go over the skills section. They have dark vision, which is always a bonus. There's plenty of locations in Baldur's Gate that are dark. Lots of tunnels, lots of inside buildings where there are large gaps between torches or light sources. And then plus the Fey ancestry, which is advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. So any 3 of these will be fine. Pick whichever flavor you like and whichever works well for you. Elf works well. High elf and wood elf, they both give +2 to dexterity, as well as these proficiencies, which we already have except for longbow. That is a nice addition. Wood elves can go a little bit faster, or they have a little bit extra move speed, which is nice. High elves, again, have that additional cantrip, as well as a +1 to intelligence. Next one is Drow with a +2 to dexterity, and also their superior dark vision, allowing for them to see even farther, which is nice since we will be attacking from range a majority of the time, or you should try to be attacking from range the majority of the time. Another one is Human, of course, because they have +1 to all stats. One thing to be weary of about humans is that they do not have dark vision. They are one of 3 races in the game that do not have dark vision. The other 2 being Githyanki and Halfling. We already went over half-elf, so we will go over gnome. See, the forest gnome has +2 to intelligence, and then that +1 to dexterity. Deep gnomes have +1 to dexterity, +2 to intelligence as well, in addition to superior dark vision and stone camouflage, which gives them advantage on stealth checks. Now, rock gnomes give that +2 to intelligence, but no bonus to dexterity. So I would avoid them unless you're really crazy about this artificer's lore. Now, moving on to possibly my favorite race to use with a rogue and an arcane trickster, and that's the halfling. Both the Lightfoot halfling and the Strongheart halfling pair very well. They both give a +2 to dexterity. Strongheart gives a +1 to constitution, which is not something we're really going to use. But nice to have if that's something you decide you want to put into. Can never go wrong with Constitution. Lightfoot gives a +1 to Charisma. Now, Lightfoot is naturally stealthy, which means that they have proficiency in stealth checks, which is nice. It sounds like a must-have for a rogue, being very stealthy. But I would argue that's not quite important for a reason I'll explain a little bit later. One thing to note is that halflings and gnomes have a lower base racial speed. So you might have trouble getting into position with these shorter characters, with the halfling and the gnome. But what's really good about both of them, they both have the lucky and the brave racial feature. Now, lucky is where all the magic is. When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die, but you must use the new roll. So in normal gameplay, you might not notice this at all, because when you're attacking, when you're doing an ability check, saving throw, those numbers don't appear over your character. So you might not know whenever you roll a 1, but if you go into the combat log, you will see how often this saves your butt. It is very nice to have, especially when you are trying to sneak attack someone and you roll a 1 on that sneak attack. That feels really bad, and it allows you to re-roll it so that way you could possibly get that sneak attack off. It's very nice. Brave also means you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Not very common in early access right now, but there are higher level spells like level 5 for wizards, fear. But that's not a big problem in early access right now. But possibly later in the game, as we go higher level, it might be. But all that we know of right now is early access period, so that's all I can tell you about, really. Okay, so just go ahead and stick with halfling here, and we're going to go over to skills. Rogues get a lot of skills, which is excellent for role-playing, but also for general roaming about the world, as well as one other very special thing. So rogues like to steal, and you get sleight of hand bonus. So what's nice about this, what I like to pick, is sleight of hand, and then you get expertise, which means your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check that uses either of your chosen proficiencies. I like doing sleight of hand, get you that nice +7, that double. So this is very nice for stealing from anybody. Shopkeepers, random people you come across that you want to trade from, breaking into chests, lockers, anything like that. It is very, very handy. And a lot of other people go stealth. I would argue that stealth is not that important in this game, at least from my point of view. Coming up to any encounter that you see with enemies, you see them from a distance, and you can toggle the vision cones, so you can see how far out you need to be before you need to start hiding. So stealth isn't really that important, in my opinion. Instead, I would pick persuasion or deception. Because when you steal things, NPCs have a tendency, if you stick around, have a tendency to question you. And if you fail your persuasion or deception on those NPCs, they might ask for that item back, they won't believe you, take you to jail, etc. So this makes it really easy, very, very easy to get out of those persuasion attempts and get away scot-free with your freely looted items. Moving on to abilities. Now, I don't like having negative in anything. A lot of people like to dump strength or some other stat, but I like having a nice balanced spread of points here. So I would suggest something like this. Having a nice high dexterity for your sleight of hand and your stealth, which like I was saying earlier, stealth is not too important, but on the occasions that you do have to roll a skill check, it's nice to have it. Intelligence, because of our spellcasting ability at level 3. Now you could pick spells that don't require a roll on the enemy's part. So you can choose something like Magic Missile, which is a guaranteed hit. Or you can choose utility spells like Long Strider, Jump, Featherfall, something where this doesn't matter. But I'm trying to build for you all a nice balanced rogue, and this is something that I would go for. You got a nice... You could choose to, instead of this, 14 in intelligence, you can go 12, and then 2 into charisma to give you a nice +1 for those persuasion and deception checks if you steal things and you don't get out of the area fast enough. But in general, I would stick with this. Gives you a nice +2 to all these skills, and whatever skills that you would like to go for. Any of these would be nice, but the ones that I would like to go for, that I recommend, are sleight of hand and persuasion or deception, or both. And then for the expertise, I would go sleight of hand and, again, persuasion or deception. Going back to origin, your background feature, these just give you proficiencies on various things. You can choose anything. So just be mindful of what race you pick, because different races have special sub-race traits that give them proficiencies in certain things. You want to try to avoid having overlapping proficiencies, because you don't get a bonus for that. You don't get extra proficiency bonus on top of that, and it's just a waste where you could get an extra proficiency. So unless you wanted to pick a background for a particular flavor reason or lore reason, then you could do that. But just be wary of this and double check your race. And then you go over to your skills and it will tell you where you're getting these skills from, where you're inherited from, what's granted, etc. So that is it for my Arcane Trickster guide. I'll have some B-roll here playing, showing some general gameplay and some of the spells that you can get that are available up to level 5 in early access. So enjoy those clips, and you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Either we act now, or someone else will pick that red clean and leave us nothing.
I wonder if this is worth the cost. Time to press ahead.
May it please, Mistra.
step is the hardest.
Let's finish this. To fill some graves.
Still on my feet.
My faith will protect me. Onward.
You fought well.
Perhaps our survival isn't such a distant prospect.